Hey everyone, my name is Teague. I'm a fashion and portrait photographer, and today we're going to be talking all about color and how incredibly beautiful and impactful it is in both photography and cinema. I've always been really drawn to appreciating and learning about color, and in the past few years I've started really exploring what colors feel and taste like to me personally, and I can take my knowledge of color theory and connotations and then mix them with my own interpretations of what these colors represent in my stories. I want to approach this video with a mix of knowledge on things like color theory and psychology, but I'm also going to be adding in some artistic perspective on how I view colors with the hope that that might inspire new approaches for you too. So starting off, let's talk about what color is. The simple definition from the Merriam Webster dictionary describes it as the aspect of appearance of objects and light sources that may be described in terms of hue, saturation, and brightness. So let's break down each one of those. We have hue, which is the actual color itself. Think red, blue, orange, or pink. We have saturation, which is the intensity of the color. Think of a scale going from 0 to 100%, with that color becoming deeper and richer as that number rises to the full saturation at 100%, or it becomes more gray as the saturation is decreased. And we have brightness, which is just how light or dark our color is. And we can play in a lot with those options of hue, saturation, and brightness when we're deciding what colors we're drawn towards. For example, we can take this fully saturated deep pink that, to me personally, feels quite obnoxious, but when I start playing around with the hue, lower the saturation a bit, and increase the brightness, now we have one of my all-time favorite shades of pink that I like to call sad and hopeful pink, a personal favorite. So this is an example of how we can play with hue, saturation, and brightness to find the colors we love, but it's also an example of personal preference and perspective, which is really what art is about. I absolutely love that more subdued pink, but for the viewers watching this that preferred that first shade of pink, that's totally great too. We all see and approach color differently, and that's truly beautiful. Different people relate to different colors. Next up, let's talk about additive and subtractive color models. We see color in light waves. The primary colors of light are red, green, and blue. And when we mix these colors with varying degrees of intensity, we can create an array of new colors. Also note that in painting or in traditional art, the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, different from the primary colors of light. So red light mixed with green light creates yellow light. Red plus blue gets us magenta. Green plus blue creates cyan. And when you mix red, green, and blue all together, with equal intensity, we get white light. So that's our additive color mixing model. Now we also have the subtractive model, which is creating new color by removing light as opposed to adding it. It's the absorption and reflection of light and colors when we mix paints, dyes, etc. Like I mentioned though, it's important to note that mixing pigment and mixing light are different. Color that you see on a physical surface like paper, prints, packaging, that all uses the subtractive color mixing model. With additive color mixing, we're adding together multiple light colors, and with subtractive color mixing, we're mixing paints, dyes, etc. If you add all your additive primary colors together, we get white light. If you add all your subtractive primary colors together, you get black by subtracting all that light. So we've got our primary colors in light, red, green, and blue, and our secondary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow. We've covered what happens when we mix our primary colors together, but what happens if we decide to mix a primary and secondary color together? Our primary red mixed with our secondary yellow creates orange. Secondary yellow mixed with primary green creates chartreuse. Blue mixed with magenta creates violet. And there are all these different ways to mix and play with color to create all these different variations. And on the note of playing and mixing colors, let's jump into talking about color schemes. Color schemes are an arrangement of colors that play well together. There are 7 major color schemes. Monochromatic, which is a single color with varying shades and tints. Analogous, colors next to each other on the color wheel. Complementary, opposite colors on the color wheel with the strongest contrast. Split complementary, which is one dominant color and 2 colors directly adjacent to that color. Triadic, 3 colors evenly spaced out on the color wheel. Square, 4 colors equidistant from each other. And tetradic, 4 colors arranged into 2 complementary pairs. You can look at color schemes as a helpful guide to choosing which colors work well together. Now, let's talk about color connotations. There's a great book that I often recommend called If It's Purple, Someone's Gonna Die by Patti Bellatoni. The book is divided into sections that describe different connotations attached to each color, as well as how they're used in cinema to evoke emotion. The chapters are broken up by the colors and their various connotations. So we've got powerful, lusty, and defiant reds, anxious, angry, and romantic reds, exuberant, obsessive, and daring yellows, innocent, cautionary, and idyllic yellows, powerless, cerebral, warm blues, melancholy, cold, and passive blues, warm, naive, and romantic oranges, exotic, toxic, and natural earth oranges, healthy, ambivalent, and vital greens, poisonous, ominous, and corrupt greens, asexual, illusionary, and fantastic purples, and mystical, ominous, and ethereal purples. Different cultures have different connotations to color, which to me really shows that we have room to really play. So the way that I approach this is through getting into a creative headspace where I can look at the colors around me and dream up colors and decide how I would describe them, keeping in mind color is used to create mood and hint towards something. So a few examples of mine personally: dystopian pink, secondhand lilac, insomnia blues, dusty grape, and salmon belly. All of these colors feel like they're a part of my stories and I can see them, feel them, taste them, but I can also use them in ways that aren't expected. So how do you make these colors yours while still making sense? Pink is usually associated with femininity, love, and kindness, so what happens when it's dystopian pink? It adds to this unique world that I want to immerse my viewer in. When you see a color you're intrigued by, play with it. How would you describe that color? Give it personality. Explore who that color is as a character and what their interaction with the world you're creating is. And that is the end of me gushing about color. This video was a lot of fun to plan and think through, and let me know in the comments below if you're also enamored by color, what your favorite colors are, and just any thoughts at all. I'm looking forward to reading through the comments and seeing you all next time.